So I just want to pick up on some funding points and tips. I am going to be sharing a link to this Achieving Bid Writing Success, but there are a few funds around at the moment that I wanted to just make people aware of. And we've been talking today about different kinds of funds, income generation strategies, getting your budgets and finances in order, in a basic way or in slightly more advanced ways, and thinking about how you put your information together if you are starting to consider and apply for funds, and whether or not you're going to meet the criteria, you've got the right legal structure if they're wanting that and everything else. So I'm just flashing this slide up to let you know. I'm going to kind of whiz through. I started to talk about typical startup funds. As a startup, you can't go for all and sundry. You can't go, aim too high because you've not got a track record. They might want to see 2 or 3 years, account history, bank statements and all sorts showing what you've been doing. So until you're at a certain point, some funds are out of bounds anyway. Or even if you've been running for years, if your turnover is not at a certain threshold, there are some funds that won't fund you unless you've got £500,000 turnover. So it's a horses for courses situation. And what I do know is that everything that's on this slide here is relevant. I think I might have spelled Hamlin wrong, but you'll forgive me for that. So unlimited, I'll quickly whiz through in a minute. Fund individuals. We were talking about how do you pitch yourself and who cares and how do you structure your budget based on what people want to know. Unlimited want to know about you and why you want to create this change and what's motivated you, and where's the community need, and whether or not your idea is kind of different, and that you've put together a realistic budget that's going to create benefit in that community, in that sector, or whatever it is you might be trying to do. And so they're about you, and the form's very simple, and it's a good sort of entry-level form that's not going to be too overwhelming. The School for Social Entrepreneurs don't have live funds at the moment, but they do look for individuals or people at the earlier stage of their journey. And again, fairly simple forms. In both of those cases, there tends to be an interview as well as the fund, which can be quite good because people can come across really naff on paper, but if somebody talks to you or they ask for a video pitch or whatever it might be, it gives you the opportunity to kind of sell your wares in a different way, and bring you and your ideas to life, rather than be just one of 1,000 application forms that some poor grants manager's got to wade through try and make decisions on. So I've been one of those. It's not, well, it is fun, I enjoyed it, but they are human beings, and they want to be able to make the best decisions and make their grants, awards, funds, opportunities to diverse groups of people and people who are going to make the most difference with the money that's available. Forever Manchester haven't got much on the go at the minute. They're the community foundation in Manchester. There's a couple of live things and there's a community toolkit, but they're always worth keeping your eye open on because they do house a number of funds that come and go throughout the year, so it's worth watching out for them. Paul Hamlin, Ideas to Pioneers. Paul Hamlin's a massive charity and they fund things to do with education, arts, health. Big charities and big social enterprises, big organisations will go to them, for funds that you can't access yet. But there is this thing called Ideas to Pioneers, and it's relevant for you. Whereas Unlimited is 500 to 5,000, and SSC can be anything from one to 5 grand, depending on what kind of social entrepreneur program you go on. Ideas to Pioneers is up to £10,000, and in some cases up to £15,000. Unlimited do have funds, the Grow It Award, which is again is typically in the region of sort of 15,000, but it's unusual. There aren't loads of funders out there that fund larger chunks like that to individuals. So Paul Hamlin's Ideas to Pioneers is for people who have got this really unique idea and a way to tackle some sort of social injustice, inequality, in health, arts, cultural development, or education in different ways. And it's an interesting fund. It's the few and far between, and it's worth a look. There's the Empowering Women Fund I'm going to look at in some detail in a second. That's a new fund that's come out. It's going to come and go. There might be 2 rounds if we're lucky. There's one with a deadline at the end, about the 25th or 26th of May. And there's due to be a second round in June, all being well, unless they spend most of the money in May. It's coming through a couple of women's aid organisations to be disseminated and distributed to organisations that are women-led, and that are supporting women and communities, and it's aimed at grassroots organisations. And you don't necessarily have to be constituted to go for that. There's some seed funding money of up to £500 or 500 to 1,000, and then there's some larger grants where you go up to 25,000. So it's a really interesting fund. It's an unusual one. The typical trajectory for all of this stuff is once you're constituted, so anything in black, that's bold in black here, you've got to have a constitution to go for it. And once you've got a constitution, the go-to fund for most people is the National Lottery's Awards for All 10k grant. The lottery do all sorts of other things, and once you've developed a bit of a track record, and even within a couple of years, you might be looking at going for some of their larger grants, things that have been called things like reaching communities, and it's like there's been a digital fund, all sorts of things that they fund. The Awards for All is a really good starter grant in that it helps you road test all sorts of things, it helps you cover project costs, it helps you cover salaries, which a lot of the funds may not do. Small funds tend not to do. You can still charge your community, so things don't all have to be free. You can use an awards for all to pump prime a bunch of stuff. It can cover research, consultation, although they like to see that you've done some of that, to be fair, before you even go to them to demonstrate community demand. So don't go to them if it's still off the back of a fag packet. You've got to have spoken to your community. You've got to have demonstrated who wants what and why, and you've got to have some stats in relation to community need and maybe strategic priorities, and what government or locally or nationally are saying about the issue you're trying to address, to convince them that you know your stuff and that you've researched it well and that there's clearly a need. But that's not too hard to find for most things that people we work with are looking to do. So Awards for All up to 10k covers all sorts. What I would say with that Awards for All, which people forget about or don't realise, they think it's a project fund, and actually, if you're just starting out, it is a good project fund, but there's lots of other funds that fund project costs. And what Awards for All can do, which lots of other funders can't do, is cover some of the more core costs. So, developing your kind of core, your website stuff, business development work, bringing in consultants and specialists to upskill you or to capacity build you, or to set up the infrastructure, to set up the operational kind of heart of what you're trying to do. Most funders won't fund that. They want to fund delivery outcomes and this, that and the other. So it's just something to bear in mind. I often come to people, not just because lots of people, when they apply for their Awards for All, buy in people like me and other associates that we work with to do certain things, but it's one of the few funds that can be used for that. So I'd say don't waste an Awards for All. It's a really useful fund. The Wheel of Manchester Stronger Communities Fund is still live. They've had all sorts of funds about over the last couple of years since Arena bombing, I think that was set up. And Stronger Communities Fund is there. I think it's up to 5k, that one. And neighbourhood grants. People might not realise, if you've just been busy beavering away, getting on with what you do, doing your grassroots thing, or just, working in a particular sector or for social justice in a particular way, you might not have plugged into your neighbourhood or to whatever the local council is doing. It might be a parish council, a local council, neighbourhood support teams, or however it's structured in your area. There's potentially council or related funding that wants to achieve some of the things you want to achieve. Sometimes it's litter picking right through to all this COVID stuff that's been around, supporting people to have things for survival, right through to upskilling, training, and reducing inequalities, making safer, cleaner, greener spaces, these sorts of language, or helping people increase their social mobility, or helping people to get skills and employability opportunities. So neighbourhood grants have got lots of different outcomes, and they, it's about skills, it's about regeneration, it's about the environment, it's about young people, it's about all sorts. So have a look what might be going on in your local neighbourhood, and we can help you with that. And certainly in North Manchester, where some of the people on this programme are, about 50% of the people on this programme are based, one of the key things that we want to do is introduce you to some of the people who funded this work, so that they can learn more about what you're doing, and you can learn more about how to access wider support from them as things roll on. I'm just going to check the chat because I just saw some stuff. That's all right. So I'm just quickly, we're nearly there. I've given you kind of some background on what I just want to do a whistle-stop tour of, and when I say whistle-stop tour, show you some applications so you can see the difference and you can get a feel for what these things are like if you've not seen much about them. I did mention earlier, but I'll mention again, it's probably worth people booking on if they can spare the time to go to this MAC webinar. It's in fact, while I've probably got it on my set of stuff, but I'm just going to copy that in case I don't. And then what I've done, I'm going to, oh, come on. Oh, that's why. I've got two laptops and one keyboard. Try to press one that does not relate to the other. So here we go. I've stopped sharing that. I'm going to go on to, let me just check. I've got bits going on here. Yeah. So just pull up the right set of stuff. Here we go. And then I can screen share again with a bit of luck. So it's coming, it's coming. Screen share, where are you? There you are. So apologies. So it's starting off on our Eventbrite page. I only zoomed it out to do a thing earlier to screenshot the thing. Just bear with me. There we go. So I mentioned earlier, I know this isn't about funding, you'll get a link to all of this, and if you want to book onto some of our sessions, and there's more going to be coming, then just feel free to do that. I'm just going to close them down as we cover them. I shared the Clearly So guide for the ambitious social entrepreneur. It is a bit old, but the way it's structured and the way it explains things and how you can access support, it's still worth a look. And whilst a handful of the funders that are in here may or may no longer be alive, most of them are. So it's worth a mooch. That's our toolkit, and there's oodles in there. We put this together the other year at the start of COVID. That's just on our website, Flourishing Beyond COVID. It's a blog on our website. It gives you a link down. Oh, hello, there's all sorts on there. It gives you a link, this purple link here, download our toolkit, gives you a PDF to all the stuff. And it covers all sorts, from funds to where to access support, to loads of really good toolkits for different types of social enterprises, community businesses and different sectors. It talks about all different kinds of awards you can apply for. So that's a good one. And a lot of what I'm about to send you in your email links back to these sessions. So if ever you lose your emails or you get lost on, listen again links, a lot of them are on this particular blog that links you right through to the videos on upskilling on all of these topics. So that's that one out of the way. And then, no, don't need that. So different funds. I think I'm going to start with the unlimited one because that's where we were before. So unlimited, I'm not going to go. I'm just showing you it so that you can see, it's got a pretty clear website. The criteria is fairly straightforward. They're looking to fund individuals with ideas for social change that are going to benefit their community. And they can fund, 500 to 15,000. What I would say is most people need to be going for what they used to call a Do It award. They had Try It, Do It, Grow It, and they're changing the names of all of these things. But in essence, what you now do is you click apply. You can, on all of these sites, there's, application guidance gives you tips on how to phrase, structure, or how to answer what questions. And some of them let you see the application questions. If they've got an online portal, which these guys do, they want you to fill in your application online. They might give you the questions in advance so you can prepare what you want to put, and then you put it in the portal. Please, please, please never just type into an online portal, because 9 times out of 10, the damn things go down. You've spent an hour writing your application, you've not saved any of it, and you're ready to leap off the nearest cliff. So whenever you write a funding bid, and you'll do this the hard way, you won't listen to me, but do write a Word document, or however you would normally type your stuff out, and cut and paste it. Don't be tempted to not do that, because otherwise you'll come a cropper. I've done it myself.
Otherwise, you spend an hour on Twitter slagging off the council.
Exactly.
Because their forms are awful.
So just copy the questions, type it in a Word document. You can check your word count easily, so you're not tearing your hair out of a word counts if they've got word counts. And then you can put it in there in the safe knowledge that if the system goes down or it doesn't save what you put in, nothing's lost. So that's just an extra tip. And yeah, that's unlimited for you. But currently they have these 3 rounds a year. So they've changed. They used to be monthly and rolling pretty much. They've changed to 3 rounds a year, and it's all clear what's there. They've got a live round now. So you need to get your bids in by the end of June, and then they'll start assessing applications with decisions at the end of September. That's the latest round. And if you miss that, there's others. It's highly competitive. I would strongly encourage people, if they're up for applying to Unlimited, let me know. I do some ad hoc work for Unlimited. I spent much of my career working for Unlimited, so I know the systems, I know what they do, and I would strongly encourage you to make contact with Alex Phillips, who's the Social Enterprise Support Manager for the North or Northwest, and we might even get her to come and do a Q&A with people. They're a funder that likes to know who's applying. You're much better going in warm. It's not a funder that really wants to churn out, like Awards for All. They're not going to talk to you. They're not going to want to hear what you've got to say. They might, at a community funding event or whatever, but in reality, they're never going to meet you, once they've funded you. It's not how they work. Whereas Unlimited, they work with you one-to-one, they support you, they know you, they know where you live. So it's just a different kind of funder, and it's worth knowing that. So next one, I can't get to the damn thing because I'm silly. Oh, there we go. So I wanted to show you, just quickly, stronger communities. This is a different example. So whereas Unlimited are of an online portal, and the lottery, this 10K, they have other funds, but I wouldn't recommend you go for more than that if you're starting out, because you'll be getting ahead of yourself. And why miss out on that 10K to do really good feasibility work, to really pilot, test and do and show what you're doing, get your community buy-in, and then go back to them for the big stuff when you're more likely to get it and you're better informed and better equipped. So that's my top tips on there. But again, it's an online portal, all the criteria is there, what they will and won't fund, and it's online. So it's that, put it in a Word document situation. Those are 2 kind of online examples. This is an offline example. So We Love Manchester, Stronger Communities, paper-based form, and yeah, I think it is, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, they're giving you this to put your details in. So they want to know, this is how these things tend to look, whether they're online or offline. There's a about you section where they want to know contact details and whatnot. They'll often want to know if you've got set up and if you've got a company number and all that sort of thing. But usually if it's, if it says, what's the status, e.g. community group, that means if you've got a constitution, you can apply, which most of these work with. They may or may not want supply relevant registrations. Oh yeah, that's just your numbers, company numbers, which may or may not apply when you set up. So here we go. Tell us about your group and your organisation, which is what you will have started to do through your business model canvas or through starting to pitch and present what it is you're doing. About your activities. So most of them, like Joe was asking before, they want to fund a project or an initiative or an element of what you're doing. Some funders might want to fund your organisation, but there tends to be larger funders, funders where you're going for more than 10K or more than 50K or whatever it might be. So it's, usually there's a chunk telling them what you want to do and why, and what are your project milestones, what's the timeline, what's going to be achieved, how do you know that who needs it and wants this? Here it says here, a bit like I was saying with the lottery, people might want to know what local and national perspectives are on this. And when we've talked about PESTLE reports before, or Gurge mentioned PEST, this is understanding the wider political, economic, social, technological, local, or environmental sort of perspectives on who's got a say on what you're doing, and what does national policy say around whatever, health and well-being, social justice, youth and community, education. I mean, there's just oodles of the stuff out there. I can show you another day, but whether you're doing your own direct research and surveys and interviews or focus groups or community feedback sessions, or whether you're going and looking at policy reports, that information is useful in sections like, how do you know there's a need? Or, how does what you're doing tie in with, local policy, local strategy, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read through all these. It's just letting you see there's usually 5 or 6 pages to rattle on. They want to know where you're working, what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Quite often, they want to know how you're going to measure the success of your project. And we are going to run some sessions on that. How will you know it's been a success? I mean, this is quite a lot of funders won't ask those questions, so it's good that they are. Cost and finance, this is what we've just done with Gurge to a point, except they're not going to ask for your income, because they're going to ask, what is it you want and what do you want to spend the money on? And then this is that bit, if the grant is worth more, if what you're doing costs more than the grant, where else are you getting the money from? Some funders want match funding, lots of small funders don't. I would generally keep it contained, so that you're applying to them for the majority of whatever it is you're applying for. But in here, you might demonstrate some in-kind support that you've got, or if you've already got, £500 or £1,000 or some other fund is covering part of this, and you need their money to kind of really make it happen. It's emphasising why you need their money and how you're committed to running it, and how you've got other support and other buy-in from other agencies or people to back up why you're running this. Because this is linked to Manchester City Council, they want to know if you've had money from them, blah, blah, blah. They want to know your bank accounts. Most of them will get your bank account information up front, so they don't have to come for it later. Again, they want to know who your signatories are on your bank account. And sometimes there's like an equality and diversity kind of section. And in this one, like in many, they want you to send them stuff. So have you answered every question, signed and dated the form, and have you included certain things? What they'll often want to, they might want to see your, not in this case, but they might want to see your memorandum and articles of association, or your constitution, so your governing documents. They might want to see a copy of your latest bank statement. They might want to see certain policies. In this case, they want to see quotes for items requested, which is a right pain in the backside, but not beyond the realms of possibility. And here they want to see your most recent annual accounts, or if you haven't got that, a copy of your most recent income and expenditure record, which is what Gurge talked through and I showed you just before. And then in this case, which is not the case of most funders, they want pictures or documents that will think. Most grant managers have not got the hours in the day to be reading extra documents and looking at pretty pictures. So it's just something to bear in mind. You don't need to go overboard usually on that sort of thing. Nearly there. So before I go on to the Empowering Women Fund, I was just going to show you this fund. It's a wellbeing fund in Manchester. Different holders of the fund use it in different ways, but if you're based around central Manchester, which a lot of people on this programme are, then it's worth having a look at this. If you've got health and wellbeing outcomes, this gives you the whole spiel to how it's come about and what they've been doing with it so far. The main bit you want to look at is here, what's the application process? I'm not going to ramble on about that, but basically you put in an expression of interest to them and they have a think about it. And you can have a look at that at your leisure if it fits within the kind of work that you're doing. Or as we've said, if you don't want to do this or you're not ready for this, other community organisations around you that you sometimes partner with or that you'd like to partner with might go for this sort of thing with you. And if they're drowning and they've got heaps of work on, they might be only too happy if you offer to help write a bid with them. So it's just something to bear in mind. And last but not least, let me bring this up. I've deleted it. Empowering. Here we go. Would you tell me this doesn't exist now? I think I went on this before and it didn't come up. So let me just type it in properly. I'm trying to find the right bit. Let's go with that, see if that works. Yes. Will it tell me? It's probably the wrong bit. You can visit here. Just want to get to, here we go. So basically, we said that we would support Manchester Women's Aid and other women's aids involved in this labyrinth project, which has this funding attached. It's all about trying to get more women to lead the change they see needed in communities, which is obviously what we've all been about, at Flourish in particular. And here, you can see from the language some of the kinds of challenges that they're trying to address with this fund. The money's come via the Tampax fund, or whatever it's called, and it's creating some cash that's it's a national fund, so that will be competitive, but it's well worth a look. If you're a women-led organisation that's either got a constitution or even if you haven't, and because they will fund what they're calling micro women's empowerment projects, and you can apply for money to grow and develop and do various things. The deadline's the 28th of May, as you can see there, and there's all sorts of documents and guidance in order to apply, so you can have a look at all the guidance notes. And I was just going to quickly open this before we wrap up once and for all. Again, it's an online form, but they're giving you the Word document so that you can prepare offline in order to put it online. So they must already know they've got a dodgy system. No, I'm kidding. There's the seed funding, which is up to 1,000, and that's what quite a number of you would potentially be eligible for if you wanted to go for that and you felt like it was relevant. I've just put up the example of the larger amount where it's 5,000 to 25,000, and it's just showing you how you can be eligible, and it's also then giving you a sense of what the questions are on the form, so you can go away and have a look at this and think, is this for you? And Joe and I are happy to put time into reviewing applications if you needed somebody to glance over it, or to help strengthen a particular section, or to give you tips on how best to do something. But again, as you'll see as I'm scrolling down, it's not rocket science, it's not too difficult, and if for any reason you're not a constituted or unconstituted community group, which is probably what you would be if you've not become a company, or other, it might be a number of community members trying to do X. Ultimately, you're a constituted or unconstituted group. As long as you have got a plan, you've got an idea, you can demonstrate having managed money before, and you can perhaps show a bit of an income and expenditure for what's been happening in the last 6 months or so, if at all, then you'll be able to give them a feel for what you're trying to do and if it's something they'd want to back. So I just mention all of this in case it's helpful for you. They want to do all sorts, but the key thing they want to do is reach people who aren't accessing what they need. So it's really targeting people from more disadvantaged backgrounds. They really want to reach out to more ethnically diverse communities, and they're really wanting to reach people who might not be able to benefit from what's traditional, what's statutory, And so I know there's people who are running all sorts of projects, groups and initiatives that would be reaching those people and would be relevant to apply to that fund. So I'm just going to stop the recording there. I wish people luck, let them know that they can get in touch if they want us to review any of that stuff. And then hopefully, you know, people, I know the people managing that fund, or some of them have said they want to get as much money as they can up north, and certainly integrate to Manchester from our point of view. So I'll wait to see what happens.